The League of the Genuine is back with me, your host, Fred Mwema. This time we are shooting out of Nairobi, to be specific, at the Villa Rosa Kempinski Hotel. I have been a guest speaker and panelist at the International Symposium on Intellectual Property Protection and Enforcement, which was held at the Bomas of Kenya between the 13th and 15th of this month. And with me to join in the conversation about the important but often ignored subject of counterfeits is a colleague in the profession, Glory Kinyua. You are welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Fred. My name is Glory Kinyua. I am a lawyer based in Kenya. I work with International Senior Lawyers Projects. Also, I am a corporate governance practitioner and a mediator.
We are looking for mediators in a big issue now in the East African region, on the African continent, in the world. We want somebody who can help us to mediate the counterfeit problem. On the right-hand side, we have the brands, the manufacturers of genuine products. We have the consumers, we have the government regulators. On the other side, we have the fakers, the counterfeiters, who are saying that they are hustlers, they're trying to find a way of surviving, and they are duplicating other people's products. Can the ISLP help us to mediate this conflict?
Maybe just to clarify the role of ISLP and usually where we engage in, ISLP is a non-profit organization registered in New York. Our headquarters are in New York. We've been in existence from the year 2000. We seek to engage ourselves in projects that advance just, accountable, and inclusive development. That is to say, our projects are demand-driven. So, Fred, if this request came into ISLP, we'll definitely put it on the table and evaluate it. Is it advancing just, accountable, and inclusive development? And I mean, what is a better way than to look at dispute resolution? The future of efficiency in dispute resolution is in the alternative dispute resolution, and I acknowledge mediation is one of the convenient ways that will be used at some point to ensure efficacy in settling intellectual property disputes.
So you feel that the counterfeit question is a commercial legal dispute that needs to be mediated, or should we just use the force of law to flush out the counterfeiters? Should we be talking about this?
Fred, from where I stand in, and as a practitioner, and also as a consumer, and also as a person in the space of international development, counterfeiting is an issue that can be mediated upon, and we are looking at mediation as an efficient way to settle dispute. On the business side also, I would say any business wants to engage in a dispute resolution mechanism that ensures a dispute is settled quick and in a cost-effective way. So there is space to progress the conversation of adopting mediation into counterfeiting disputes. From this also side of consumers, I wouldn't say that we use law enforcement as the main mechanism.
Or only?
Or only. I would say we bring all the parties on the table. Let us enlighten the consumers. Let us enlighten the enforcement team. And let us enlighten the intellectual property right owners on how they can best protect their brands. At the same time, let us make consumers aware on how to differentiate between the counterfeits and
the genuine products. Glory, why I raise this issue of mediation is because from the brand perspective, a lot of complaints go into the cost of doing enforcement is expensive, the cost of hiring a lawyer to fight these counterfeit cases, they take a lot of time. On the part of the consumer, there is a big cost to their money. They lose money, value for money, when you buy a fake product which doesn't work. There's a cost to their health. So it is pleasing to know that you speak of mediation, of a way of talking to each other as opposed to talking at each other to solve this human problem. But back to ISP, you are a project or a program associate. You are running several programs on behalf of ISLP, in particular in respect of government engagements. And we know that government is a key player in the fight against counterfeits. Does ISLP have a specific program on intellectual property protection and enforcement?
As I stated earlier, we are demand-driven at the moment, and I refer to our participation to the ISIPE symposium. We provided or rather supported the Anti-Counterfeit Authority Kenya with our volunteer speakers who we consider experts in that area, and we appreciate there needs to be conversation even that goes into policy changes, and which eventually will lead to legislation framework changes to make sure that laws that are there work for all stakeholders.
So you can have a program
Yes.
on IP protection
Yes.
and enforcement. But I did see there were several topics of discussion at the symposium. We had topics on IP legislation, policy, public awareness, illicit trade, how it's a threat to national and border security. But I did not see any specific presentation or topic on counterfeits, on the menace of counterfeits. Do you think that was an oversight?
There are areas that speakers were able to highlight on
Yes.
or areas it was not on the main topics. I identified, or rather I had attended some of the sessions which they were actually mentioned. And we have to agree the health consequences that results from counterfeits, one of the major issues that was at the center of discussions. And also ISLP was heavily able to participate in the area of partnerships. Being an international non-profit organization, we appreciate there is a need for partnerships. There's a need for lawyers, there's a need for governments to learn from international best practices, and that is what ISLP brings into, and that is our value addition. We don't seek to replace the local experts.
You complement.
We complement and share what are the international best practices.
I was a panelist on an interesting discussion relating to illicit trade, how it impacts national security, border security, and socio-economic development. And I did try to highlight that probably we IP practitioners are being too narrow when we are talking about trademark infringement, and this one is copying the other's brand. And yet there are so many elements of illicit trade that are actually promoting counterfeits and interfering with customs and border security, things to do with stolen goods at sea. This is a business that accounts for more than 30 billion a year. Stolen oil, these are the products that eventually come and make the fake lubricants. Misinvoicing, somebody brings in product A but says it's product B, and the product ends up on the market. Do you think that we, the IP practitioners, are too narrow-minded? We are not seeing the bigger problems in international trade, driven by human trafficking, those things that I'm talking about? Don't you think we need to expand the conversation to talk about these cargo thefts as well? They could be genuine products, but a cargo theft is leading to counterfeiting, because counterfeiting also relates to gray goods or dumping of goods, even if they're genuine. What's your take on that?
And being also an IP practitioner, yes, there's the need to enlarge the conversation. But also again, I will reiterate that this is a talk that needs multi-stakeholder engagement. When you talk about cargo theft, when you talk about the sneaking of goods into the market, we realize it's entirely upon the government because they're the ones who man these entry points, yeah? So then this calls for more engagement from the government. There needs to be more inspections, and probably it's a time to explore. We need more stringent laws that will set a pace. I mean, if you're caught sneaking goods into the country, the law should be applied to you in such a way that it will deter the other people who are known
from committing the vice.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
saw so many people in the audience
Mhm.
who are putting questions to the Anti-Counterfeit Authority
Mhm.
and saying that, and demanding for more action. And I had Mr. Odera, the director for Rico. I talked to him on the sidelines, and he was saying, Fred, part of the problem we have is that whereas we have a law which puts penalties, I think he said 3 times
Yeah, it's 3 times.
the cost of the goods,
Mhm.
they are finding it difficult to actually prosecute the big fish, because the higher the value of the goods seized, the counterfeit goods seized, the more difficult it is to prosecute, because these high value goods have high net worth owners who have the money and resources to oil the system and frustrate it. To what extent is corruption hindering the fight against counterfeits in Kenya and the region?
Definitely that is a huge problem, and again, it's a statement that was made by Mr. Adera,
Yes.
and I totally, I've seen it happen also, but again, there's the aspect also which was heavily touched upon. We need political will.
Political will, yes.
We need a political will, I mean, to successfully use the laws that are already in place.
So are you amending your statement that we need stiffer laws? Or are you qualifying it to say we can have more punishments, bigger punishments, but can we utilize the existing punishments?
Whatever we have is sufficient, yeah? If we were operating within whatever we have already, we will be seeing positive results. But to this end, we agree there is corruption that is interfering with the prosecution of cases, yeah? We agree there is the lack of political will towards this end. We've had occasions where you've seen in the news, Anti-Counterfeit Authority is being told to not to interfere with traders. Apart from that also, and it's something that was heavily touched on during the conference, was we need to enlighten prosecutors and the judiciary on how to prosecute these anti-counterfeit cases. So on one end, you see we have a functional law, but the stakeholders around the law who are supposed to be implementing the law successfully are being the main shortcoming to us achieving the success.
But when you accuse the
Yeah.
government of Kenya of lack of political will, when it has enacted a law to provide for the prosecution handling of counterfeit cases, it has established a governmental organization, specific agency to deal with counterfeits. I think Kenya is the only country in the region that has an agency specifically fighting counterfeits. In Uganda, we have the Bureau of Standards. We don't have a body dealing with counterfeits apart from the anti-counterfeit network. In Tanzania, we don't have a body dealing specifically with counterfeits. I think we have the Fair Competitions Commission or something like that. In there, they handle some standards and counterfeits. I don't know if Rwanda has anything. So can't we at least applaud the government of Kenya for establishing this agency as a starting point? It may be imperfect, but
Yeah,
should we give credit?
we should, definitely we should, and I agree, we are actually the pace setters within the region on IP, and especially on the enforcement side. We need the government to continue supporting ISCA in delivering on its mission. So we can't not agree the government has heavily supported.
But can do more.
It can do more.
Before we take a break, I would like to know whether the International Senior Lawyers Project feels satisfied and contented with the outcome of the symposium. Did you achieve what you wanted?
Yes, we achieved because again our role was to support Anti-Counterfeit Authority with our volunteers' expertise. We had 3 presenters. We had Raj Gandesha from the White & Case firm. It's an international law firm.
It's one of the biggest in the
and
world.
they're known for their expertise. We had Owen Miller, which is also from White & Case firm. And we had a partner from Hans Luiser and Parks LLP, Mr. Craig Owen. He's a renowned expert in the field. I believe with more than 30 years experience. ISLP is satisfied we were able to support the government by offering the expertise of our
So this was not
volunteers.
just another talking shop.
No,
This was
we
impactful
Yes, we are bringing international best practice aspects.
into the region.
Yes, into the region.
Let us take a break. We're back with the second segment of this conversation here with Glory. Glory be to God. That's what we Christians say. But when you are glory, Kinyua.
My mother chose to stop it at glory.
So you don't say glory be to
Yeah,
God.
so I'll stick with glory.
Program Associate, International Senior Lawyers Project, an international NGO headquartered in New York, the USA. You do a lot of pro bono legal services. Pro bono meaning they help low-income, disadvantaged people to get a lawyer, to somebody to go and plead for them in the court. But before we go into these pro bono legal services, back to the symposium. I happened to be on a panel which was full of men. The panel discussants were only men. And some lady from the Kenya Law School accused the organizers and with the panelists for being, she didn't say it, but I thought she was saying we're male chauvinists. Why don't we have ladies there? My question to you is, on the subject of counterfeits, who is promoting counterfeits more, the men or the women? Your honest answer.
I will refer to also part of the conversation that took place shortly after that. The gentleman who responded to that said most of the women, and it's the role of women to do most of the shopping. So on that perspective, then it would mean then women also get to interact with the counterfeit product more often as opposed to men. But again, that is not to say
To
women
be specific,
provide-
the women, it was me actually
Yeah.
who answered that
Oh,
question. And I said the mothers, the wives, the women do most of the shopping.
mm-hmm.
And knowingly or unknowingly, a lot of the counterfeits we consume at home are being brought by the women. So to that extent, are you a bigger problem in the fight against counterfeits, or you're part of a bigger solution?
I believe I'm part of the bigger solution. And just to show you an example is over the few years that I've engaged with IP and counterfeiting, I make an attempt to make sure things that I consume, things that I shop, I look in details. What does the product
Give the women
consist?
tips. What are the tips you use when you are shopping to avoid counterfeits? You look at the
I look at the content, and this way I'll refer to things that I'm mostly keen on. I am very keen on things that I use on my hair. Today when I go to shop for my shampoo or my conditioner, I look for something, for a product that says paraben free, no silicons.
no heavy metals.
No heavy metals, but mostly at the moment I'm very keen on no parabens, no silicone. So my practice is usually I'll carry my products to the salon.
So what you're telling the listener is that if you're buying a shampoo, first of all, you need to know what the active, correct ingredients for that shampoo are. Don't just go blindly and buy anything. Let's have some education to know the correct ingredients.
Correct.
What else should they look out for?
Correct. And apart from knowing, also I've taken it as a personal responsibility. when I go to my salonist, I'll want to look at the products that they are using. And I had a very elaborate conversation the last time I went to the salon, and I told my salonist, this gel had paraben. So I explained the dangers of parabens to our bodies.
Parabens are harmful chemicals.
Yes, they're harmful chemicals which, when we use on our hair, they find their way into our bodies, and they're said to have to be carcinogenic at some point.
So they can cause cancer.
And believe you me, the next time I went back to the salon, my salonist didn't have that gel. She had changed to a different brand, and I looked at the constituent, and it was paraben free. I was very impressed.
So you can see that whether it is men or women, because even men go to the salon, you're also telling the men listening that please, if you are going to a salon, you can contribute to the stock of knowledge on pushing genuine products by saying this aftershave that you are using, bump control, whatever, make sure it's the genuine one, make sure it has the right ingredients. So I guess in the context of who is causing more counterfeits, maybe we are equally to blame.
Yes.
Because the man who will provide the money,
yeah,
if they are careless not to know what their money is buying, they have also contributed to the problem. The woman who will go to shop and buy and bring maybe the fake product is also contributing to the problem. That leads me to the issue of pro bono legal services. Is pro bono legal services free of charge? Is it a tool that you can understand to help us to fight this menace of counterfeits?
I'll take you back a little bit on ISLP and what we do. Of course, pro bono it's an asset. It's saving on costs. You're able to get legal services without having to pay for the legal services. But our organization, again, it's mission driven, and we will engage where we seek to advance just, accountable, and inclusive development. Again, we get to benefit from the wide network of volunteer lawyers that we have. We have international senior lawyers. We have experts from the academia, and also we have retired practitioners. And our model is in such a way we are seeking to complement the local council and local capacity. We don't want to replace the local capacity. So where we engage on projects that need the local aspect of the legal services, we'll work together with local councils in that particular jurisdiction. We can use it as an asset when where need be, and on a case-to-case analysis. And again, I'll take you back. We are demand-driven, so we'll wait upon an organization like ACN to approach us and tell us we have this issue.
But there is a public outcry. People are crying about counterfeits. What more evidence of demand to fight counterfeits do you need? And you can hear the people in Kenya, in Uganda crying.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Fred, but we appreciate also we have to engage in an institutional way. And ISLP works closely with governments. We work closely with civil societies, and we work closely with social enterprises. So in one way or the other, we will be able to play our role.
So have you prosecuted through your pro bono legal services any counterfeit cases?
When it comes to our participation in cases, we do appear in amicus curiae. So
a friend of court.
Yes, yes.
You don't get a lawyer to go directly, file papers for a case, let's say civil case, attend court to prosecute it, obtain Anton Pillar orders or injunctions, seizure orders. You don't go direct?
No, we'll appear as a friend of the court in most cases. And in other areas, our support comes in terms of legislative drafting. It also comes in terms of legislative review. And we also heavy on capacity building.
Training prosecutors, training magistrates, training judicial officers.
It's something we've been doing, yeah? And if we refer to part of the conversation that came alive at the symposium, is there is a clear need to enlighten or build capacity of prosecutors. There is a need to build capacity of the judiciary officers. There is a need to build the capacity of lawyers, and there is a need to build the capacity of consumers. So we may be able to reach out to the consumers through civil society organizations or social enterprises.
Is it your take that the subject of counterfeiting as a civil wrong, as a crime, as organized crime, is not understood? A normal prosecutor who prosecutes other cases may not squarely understand what IP protection and anti-counterfeit is. Is that the experience you get as well?
Yes, that is the experience, Fred. And I will answer this question from this end being as a consumer. And maybe I'll go back in my last 10 years before I probably went to law school and had an interaction with intellectual property. I wouldn't say I knew much about a brand. I wouldn't say, I mean, at that moment, if I went to get a shoe, I wouldn't pay attention to that is a Nike shoe, that is an Adidas shoe. Yeah. So I totally agree there is this other part of not knowing, and it doesn't affect the consumers only. I've interacted also with colleagues who don't understand the value of IP. And the conversation that we are trying to push ahead is IP is an asset.
People think assets are the
land and the cars.
The land and the cows.
Yes. There's the missing point of IP is an asset that can be monetized to benefit you and your future generations and the society at large.
So you feel that counterfeits could be a threat to the ISPL programs of promoting inclusive development? Can you have inclusive development where everybody, wherever they are, whoever they are, can help in the development and transformation of society? Can you feel this is achievable if we're not fighting counterfeits?
When we speak about inclusive development, we are looking at engaging all stakeholders, bringing the voices of voiceless, bringing the voices of women, bringing the voices of young boys, of young girls, of the marginalized ethnicities, of the people who are considered out of reach. Our role as ISAP, and even in programming our programs, we are looking at the end result where we are promoting equality and equity depending on wherever or on which status you are. So I totally agree. Counterfeits interfere with economic development. They affect human health. They affect job opportunities. So yes, if we are fighting counterfeits, at the end we'll be supporting inclusive and sustainable development.
So is it possible that after this show, we might see more activations in whether it's legislative support, whether it is skewed towards fighting counterfeits? Are we likely to see more?
Definitely yes, Fred, and we'll pick part of the recommendations that were made from the symposium, and I'm open to move forward this conversation on how SLP can support the government, the civil society, social enterprises in achieving an inclusive economic development by fighting counterfeits.
One of the problems we have in Africa is that we have so many NGOs, so many associations crowding in one area to provide the same services, duplicating it. In Kenya, you have the National Legal Aid Service. In Uganda, we have the Legal Aid Project. I don't know what they have in Tanzania. How different is this pro bono service that ISLP is offering from the other providers of the same service?
You made a reference to the local pro bono service providers, yeah? And I would like to reiterate that ISLP is coming in to complement the Kenya National Legal Aid Service. And again, I would reiterate our strength we derive our strength from the network of experts
senior
that
lawyers.
we have. Yes, experienced senior lawyers.
Why I ask that is because I know one of the challenges of pro bono legal services is that because it's a free service, sometimes there appears not to be sufficient attention or time or effort given by the lawyer who is offering the free service, okay? To the extent that this might affect the quality of the service being offered. We've actually seen some people complaining they are supposed to be a beneficiary of a pro bono legal service and they get a disservice. So how does ISLP ensure that the quality of the service offered is not affected even if it's for free? In other words, how do you ensure a fake legal service from your pro bono service?
Fred, we have an engagement with our volunteers.
Okay.
That's the first, our first response. And also, again, I'll keep reiterating, we have experts. If you look at the profiles of the kind of experts that we provide, they are award-winning lawyers in the globe. So our strength.
But they may not have time.
No, actually, and from experience and from the projects that I've implemented with our volunteers, they're able to commit double, triple of hours that you would imagine that they're committing into a project. We've had a project which a total of about 20 lawyers supported a single project. So our volunteers have at their heart, they
Yes.
know the mission of ISLP and they enable us to accomplish.
So in other words,
Yes.
not any lawyer will come and be part of this project. You must have made your mark. You must show passion and commitment to service.
Yes, that is very right, Fred.
Let's take a break. We're back with the third and last segment of this conversation with Glory. Glory, as we wind up on the pro bono legal services by the Senior Lawyers Project, I'm just wondering whether the fact that most people in this region of the world do not know their rights, legal rights, for lack of a better word, most of them are ignorant about the law. How is this ignorance of legal rights, ignorance of the law, affecting the pro bono legal service provision? Because I can imagine that you are only able to give me pro bono service if I know my rights.
You mentioned ignorance. The best way to get rid of ignorance is through sharing knowledge, or rather education. So ours will start, and most of our project will look at the grassroots problem. Then what's the need? The need is to spread the knowledge and to share the knowledge. Our role will come in the support, in the knowledge sharing and building the capacity heavily. And that's where then we derive that expertise from our volunteers.
So are you doing something
Yeah.
to help the citizens, the communities,
Yeah.
to get awareness about IP rights, about any rights? In awareness, what are you doing?
We tend to engage where there is a need, yeah? So if there is a need and the need is brought to us, we'll work to fit in. We've worked with a number of law societies in different countries to build the capacity of lawyers. And our civil society teams have also engaged with communities to build capacity and spread knowledge in different areas of our thematic focus.
Do you feel that the problem of counterfeits is caused by the absence of law or the enforcement of law, or the lack of enforcement? Where do you think, because I hear people talking about counterfeits and we need laws and stiffer this. In this law thing, is the problem presence of law, absence of law, enforcement of law, understanding of law, interpretation of law? Where does it fall?
I would answer that question in two different ways. There is on this side a group of people who knowingly buy counterfeits, and that derives from a whole set of other issues, affordability of commodities, and then there is this other side of people who don't know they're actually buying the counterfeit. Yeah, you remember the conversation about originality and the generic medicine. Someone today who indicated they actually didn't know it is about originality and not counterfeit. Yeah, and if you remember that conversation, it appears the generic medicines, after all, they are not counterfeits. It's the products were valid for a certain period, and the patents were released to the market after the expiration
under
of
the
15
doctrine
years.
of exhaustion.
Yes,
the
yes.
original
Yeah.
inventor
Yeah,
is allowed 15 years
Yeah.
exclusive
Yeah.
use, and then after it's open. But I was
Yeah.
there actually when they were, somebody asked that question.
yeah,
They asked the gentleman from the Pharmacy and Poisons Board,
Mhm.
that's the name here, and I think somebody asked the question, how they differentiate between the generic and original branded medicines in the market. And I thought that question was relevant, but only to the extent that we don't appreciate that both generic medicines and the branded original ones are counterfeited. If you see what I'm trying to say, it
In the
doesn't matter.
strict-
In
in
the
the
street,
strict
they are all
defini-
counterfeited.
in the strict definition of a counterfeit. Yeah, but you see the regulators allowed the generic medicines to be sold to the market.
Yeah, but generic medicines are not counterfeit.
Yeah, they're not counterfeit. But
Because
out here, if you speak to a number of people, you can get to a conclusion that the consumers tend to think generic and
No, but
counterfeit.
what is interesting, Glory, is that here in Africa, we use very little in terms of the branded original patented medicines. Most of the medicines we have here in Africa are generic. For example, for the headaches, many of us will run to paracetamol.
Yeah,
Paracetamol is a generic medicine.
yeah.
The branded original patent is Panadol or Calpol.
Mhm.
Most of us, for antibiotics, will go for amoxicillin. But that's a generic.
Yeah.
The original is amoxil.
Mhm.
So for me, my argument is that I think it does not matter whether it's a generic or a branded original product. They all suffer the same thing. They are all counterfeited. Even paracetamol is counterfeit.
Yes, in the strict definition of counterfeited.
Yes.
Yes, and I believe it will be also useful to talk a bit about counterfeit and substandard.
Now that is an issue again of distinction.
Yes.
What is the difference between a counterfeit and substandard? Because we lump them together.
Yes.
And I think, again, we take blame as the IP practitioners. We are sitting here with this knowledge and we don't give the information to the lawmakers, to the politicians, to the consumers. They don't know the difference. But the difference is simple. A substandard product is a product that does not conform to the standards of production that have been set by a country. If you say a mattress should have this gauge, if you say an angle bar should be this strength and so on. So if you produce below that standard, that is substandard. Whereas a counterfeit is a product that infringes the brand name
Yes.
of Glory, who has registered a specific product under that name. So if you copy and you say this is Samsung, whereas it is not a Samsung, that becomes a counterfeit.
So there is an aspect of fraudulent imitation of
Yes.
someone's trademark.
Yes.
Of course, there are there is commonality. Most of the times you will find counterfeits are substandard.
Correct.
And that is, it will not also be true to say we have genuine products that are still substandard.
Yes.
So,
But you can't have a genuine product which is counterfeit. Because you can't be genuine
Yes,
when
yes,
you have
yes.
copied.
Yes, definitely, yes, yes.
But now we don't have this information out to our people. Our people do not know. That's why, for example, somebody will send your maid to buy toothpaste, but you tell the maid to go and buy Colgate.
Sure.
For us, we think every toothpaste is called
Colgate.
So, don't you think the brands are not doing enough to educate us about these distinctions? Do you see the brands playing a role in public awareness and understanding of their products? Or do you see the brands being sold out to consumerism? Buy one, get two free.
Well, and this one is purely from a consumer side of view. I would benefit more from a brand that tells me buy this product because it has this and this and that. So of course there is that need of brand owners to come and educate the consumers. Buy our products because they come with these benefits, yeah, and not the commercial aspect about it, but make me identify with the quality and the benefit that I can be able to derive from your brand that is not available from another brand. And that way, it will build loyalty from my end as a consumer to your product. Yes.
But you're saying you're not seeing this happening. What you're saying is brands are throwing their products into our faces. Buy more, buy. It's about buy.
Of course, I wouldn't want to generalize that.
There are some brands which are trying.
There are some brands that are very communicative adverts. But of course, there are other brands that needs to emulate this practice to make consumers aware about their products.
Have you been a victim of a counterfeit product or service?
I've once been a victim of a counterfeit detergent. I bought a detergent that I used to have so much loyalty in, but unfortunately when I went to use the detergent at my home, the quality of what I usually was accustomed to was not what I got this time.
How did you know it was a counterfeit?
I know how this detergent looks like. I know its smell. I know the thoroughness, or rather its effectiveness.
How it cleans.
And even its color. For this particular one, when I poured it into my toilet, I could clearly see this is not what I am used to.
Was it any effect on the nails or fingers? Was it itching or?
Not really.
Because I know some detergents which cause a lot of maids in the city of Nairobi or Kampala are suffering quietly because you guys are buying detergents that burn them. And we shall never know the health impact of this. People could be getting sick.
Yes, sure. But for this particular one, there was outward differences in terms of color, in terms of smell, because I know what my detergent used to be like. I had bought it at the wholesale shops that are located in markets within Nairobi. So I went back and started looking at the packaging of the detergent. That's when I realized there's a high possibility there was repackaging of this. Something else was repackaged.
But was the package the same? Was the price the same?
Yeah.
Did you buy from the same place where you usually buy genuine?
Not really. And again, that is what informed me my future decisions on where I get to buy my products for home use and for my own personal care. Nowadays I'm very keen on where I get to purchase products. I'm looking at reputable distributors. I'm not likely to go into any shop and buy commodities.
But there is this notion, goods once bought are not returnable. As a lawyer, does that notion hold? Is it illegal?
Of course, that is illegal. If I was buying something to derive some quality,
fit for purpose, you represent that this will be able to perform a certain activity, and I exchange money with you in consideration of I'm going to get the benefit. So if I don't get the benefit, what you're saying that I can return this good.
I should be able to return.
It's not merchantable.
I should be able to return. I should be able to get my money back. Yeah, and probably I should get some damages to take care of the time I've spent on all that. and even the disappointment. Yes.
As we end this show, I was discussing with you offset that we have developed an acronym called Nyankani, denominating the drivers of counterfeiting. That has differentiation. We can't differentiate genuine from fake, affordability, normancy. It's normal, we're buying the products, it's convenient. Concealed danger, we don't know the concealed dangers. Aspiration, the young people are aspiring to look like you, so they'll go and get a fake branded version of your coat. We have talked about negligence. We are negligent as consumers, some regulators are negligent, and then ineffective cooperation. Which of those drivers, as we close, stands out for you? Which you feel that if you plug this out, most likely you'll sort out the rest of the drivers? Which one is it?
From a consumer point of view and from my own personal opinion, it would be affordability, and also not being aware the harmful effects of
the concealed dangers.
Yeah, the concealed dangers of counterfeits. And when I speak about affordability, Fred, it doesn't matter if this product is of good quality or not. If I can't afford it, it's simple, I can't afford it, then I'm limited to products that I'm able to afford. And that is why, and it was something that was emphasized during the symposium, when you go to the market, at our market within Nairobi, they'll tell you, this one is it just works the same way as the genuine
original
one. Yes.
But it's lower price.
But it's lower
So
price.
are you saying,
but in my pocket, that's the only thing I can afford. So it means I'm constrained.
as a person who offers pro bono services to the low income and disadvantaged, are you saying that the low income people must consume counterfeits because they have low income?
No, I'm saying the low income people are most disadvantaged by the counterfeits.
Should they consume counterfeit because they are low income?
No, they shouldn't consume. But the reality is, this is what they can afford.
Can they consume counterfeits if they knew the dangers? If they knew that 1 year from now, if I use this cosmetic, I could get liver cancer. 1 year from now, if I give my child this cough syrup that has a dangerous thing but it's cheap, my child could get respiratory issues or have a heart problem. Are you saying that if somebody knew that these brakes that I'm buying are fake, and there's a 50-50 chance that while I'm driving, I may fail to brake and die, are you saying that the poverty will stop them from listening to these dangers?
Fred, that is why I closely tied the aspect of affordability and to the dangers. Yeah, I tend to believe perhaps if you knew the cosmetics that I'm using will cost me my life, then I'll have a second thought about it. Yeah, so that is why.
So the two go hand in hand.
Yes, that is why I closely tied them together, because I believe, and definitely if you knew you're consuming something that will be the end of your life, then you will rethink and probably think, then maybe I can just avoid it. Yeah?
So in other words, public education.
Yeah.
Your message to the listeners. This program is beaming across the continent of Africa. Speak to the Africans and the rest of the world.
My message is the fight against counterfeit is a personal responsibility. We are aware of the dangers that may come as a result of counterfeit. So let us take advantage of the knowledge that we have. And if we do not have this knowledge, then let us look for programs or forums in which there is this exchange of knowledge, and use that knowledge to fight against counterfeit. And when you have an opportunity, pass that knowledge. I mean, if we are able to pass through our most inner circles, I believe somehow we are going to multiply the knowledge, and at the end of it all, we'll be spreading the gospel of inclusive development by bringing everyone to the table. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Glory Kinyua, Program Associate, Government Engagement. She is from the International Senior Lawyers Project. Thank you so much for the conversation.
Very much, Fred.
I am sure that we have been able to pick one or two things And we appreciate you so much. If you can subscribe, if you like what we're doing, you can share and make it a date. Every Friday evening, we are here on the League of the Genuine Conversations to discuss the important but often ignored subject of counterfeits. Our aim is to give you information that can help you to be informed, because we believe an informed consumer is an empowered consumer. As always, don't be fake, buy and sell genuine.